Right, so let's start by hitting record. Thank you, Alex, for the reminder. Appreciate it. Again, I'm going to get started. I know it's dinner time. I understand some of you out there are enjoying dinner and a show this evening. Someone informed me. Hope you enjoyed it. Kind of a creative way to enjoy the webinar. All right, let me share my screen, get the agenda up, and we will get started. And there we go. You can see that, right, Alex, Jess, either?
Yep, I guess.
Excellent. Okay. Well, first, just want to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this evening. That record there is for me, so that's been done. So we are recording this evening. So if anyone asks if they missed it, you can certainly share with them. It'll be recorded and posted on YouTube, if not this evening, first thing tomorrow morning. If you do have questions as we move through this, I ask that you just please put them in the Q&A, and then when we're finished, if I'll get through them, and if I've already addressed them, I'll just probably check them off. If you do, please make sure that questions, if you could limit them to questions that might kind of impact the whole school. Obviously, individual issues are very important to us, but this really isn't the forum for that. If you have individual concerns, again, start with your child's teacher, your grade assistant principal, or Ms. Agrensoni. You can also always email me, okay? Chances are good I'll probably bounce it to one of them, but I'm more than happy if you need me to address it directly. That's not a problem. So let's jump right in. I know there's been quite a bit of information the last week, a little bit of confusion. I do apologize for that. I quite honestly was a little bit confused myself, but we kind of think we've sorted everything out, and I'm going to just share the information that I have now. And hopefully what I'm putting out will, we're in a spot where this information remains relatively stable, at least till holiday break, and then we'll see what happens after that. So as you know, we got back, we welcomed back children coming back to blended learning today. It was great to see cohort C here. And where we're at right now is students in grades K to 5 are coming back for blended, and students in grades 6 through 8 are remaining in full remote. We are going to continue to operate under 3 cohorts until the holiday break. Okay, so really between now and break, except for the families that have opted back into blended learning, opted into blended learning from full remote, it's pretty much business as usual until we go on our holiday break. The 23rd, I believe, is our last day in the building. When we return from break, the numbers now, the guidance, as I'm sure you've seen on the news and things like that, is for principals to get children in the building as often as possible. And that's something, you know, we do want to do and we take seriously. So to that end, we will move to 2 cohorts after break. All right, and elementary school self-contained classes, that's classes 111, 311, and 511, they will actually be in 5 days a week. Okay, and I've spoken to the teachers about that. They'll get that information out to families, but they will be in 5 days a week. Everybody else, K to 5, for now, will be in on a 2 cohort schedule, which will look, let me just change the share here. So it'll look something like this. This is tentative, but it's actually pretty solid. I don't really see this changing too much, but again, it does remain a little bit tentative. So as you can see, it gets the kids in considerable amount more, either 3 or 2 days a week, depending on the week. And then it actually allows them to be in school 3 days in a row, every other week as well, except of course when there is a holiday. And we actually did look ahead. The holidays are pretty evenly distributed throughout the year, so that over the long run, it will balance out if a particular cohort misses a day. So this is the intention right now for K to 5 students when we get back. And again, that's K to 5. The general education classes, the self-contained classes will come back 5 days a week. All right, so let me get back to the agenda. Sorry, bear with me here. I lost the agenda. Why did I do this? There it is. Sorry. Where'd the agenda go? Share screen. Get rid of this. I don't want to do that. Bear with me. I seem to have misplaced the agenda, but I will definitely find it. There it is. Let's do it this way. That should. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's the schedule we have between now and holiday break, and then after the break, the schedule that we will transition to. There still is no word on what's going to happen with students in grades 6 to 8, whether or not they're going to stay full remote or they're going to come back and blend it at some point. As soon as we have that information, we will share it with you. I know there's been a lot of talk about bringing students in 5 days a week. It's really, to be very blunt, it's completely impossible for us. And let me just explain why. The first bullet that you see here, there's a staffing issue. Okay, we currently, with our general education classes, we have 28 sections in the building each day. Okay, under a 3 cohort system, we need 56 more teachers daily. But because we're going to 2, let's just assume we're going to go in a 2 cohort system, which means we would need 28 more teachers with 2 cohorts. All right, we barely have enough teachers to cover 28 sections each day. So the idea that we're going to find 28 more teachers is just not realistic. Budgetarily, even if we could, 28 more subs each day for the remainder of the year would cost $605,000. We currently have $139,000 in sub money for the rest of the year. So that disparity speaks for itself. And then if we actually hired, say, full-time, quote unquote, regular teachers, it would cost almost $1.7 million. So there's staffing issues, there's budgetary issues, and then let's just assume we had the budget. Candidates, there just are no candidates out there to hire. There are not 28 teachers to hire, to bring in, to cover those classes, to get kids in 5 days a week. And then finally, space. We have 51 classrooms, we need 56. So we really, I mean, it's just not feasible on any, really the big 3 things to consider: staffing, budget, and space. We don't meet the criteria on any of them. So it really is an impossibility for us to bring the kids in 5 days a week, all the students. However, we can do better and get the kids in more often, which is our intention as soon as we get back from break. So this is what we're up against as far as the 5-day-a-week situation goes. I do know that it's been mentioned a lot. Principals received a survey to find out, what our ability is to bring students in more this week after the announcement was made. And I was very transparent with Central that that this is what we're up against. So we've struggled to find staff all year. So the idea that we're going to find 28 more teachers, now or right after the holiday break is really not realistic. And again, financially, it just doesn't work, unfortunately. It would be great, but it just doesn't work. The schedules, I know that with the shift, well, kind of the surprise return this week, and then also the kind of the surprise that middle school would stay home, that did lead us to have to make some changes to the schedule. I do apologize for that. It was just necessary because due to staffing issues and who's working in the building, who's working at home. I have to admit, this is in trying to sort of forecast and predict scenarios. This one caught me off guard. I did not foresee a scenario in which half the building would be home and half the building would come in. So we did have to do a little tweaking there, which we've done. And it works out pretty well for some grades. 7th grade, for example, I think their schedule was strengthened quite a bit. They were probably realistically, to be transparent, maybe the weakest of all the at-home schedules, just because of staffing issues. And theirs is actually rather strong right now. But that's going to continue to be fluid. And why is that? Staff can continue to get accommodations throughout the year as health conditions change or come up. If middle school returned to blended learning, that would lead us to have to make some more changes to schedules. Decisions based, the city's basing decisions on whether we remain open or closed. That obviously potentially creates the necessity to move staff around. And then students transferring to full remote, that does tip the scale some and potentially leads us to make change. And the other issue that I really haven't discussed much, actually at all, I don't think, but something also to consider, is we are covering some of our programs with substitute teachers. And we have a strong kind of cadre of 4 or 5 subs that we use, and really you don't lose a lot with them. You lose very little, actually. They're the one silver lining to this sort of situation is we've had the opportunity to really vet some very strong teaching candidates for potential future positions, and we have got 4 or 5 very strong subs who've been doing an outstanding job acting as regular teachers. You would not even know they're substitute teachers. However, there's always the potential that they could get offered something permanent at another building, or they could be offered something through the end of the year. Right now, I can't promise substitute teachers who are working in the building. I can't say to them, yes, you're going to be with us all year, because if we do shut down and go full remote, our need for subs is reduced drastically. So, I've had conversations with some of them where they said, listen, I've got a school in another part of the city that's offering me, they're going to lock me in for the entire school year. I understand that. I certainly don't want to lose them, but I also don't want them to pass up that, full-time employment for the rest of the year on when I can't guarantee them the same. So, these changes can continue to be necessary throughout the year. We're going to do everything we can to avoid it, and to kind of mitigate their impact, but it is a possibility. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Another, I guess, plus to kind of having this half and half situation where K-5 is in the building for blended and middle school is home, it does help us budgetarily a bit, as it reduces our need for subs from 5 to 2 per day. Okay, which if we stayed, if we locked into this for the rest of the year, that would the 2 subs a day cost us close to $50,000 for the rest of the year, as opposed to the well, 2.5 times that for the rest of the year. So there's a slight benefit there. Now that leaves us with about 90 grand for the rest of the year in sub money, and just please keep in mind we have to cover 6 maternity leaves between now and the end of the year, and daily absence coverage. So it is going to continue to be tight. There, I've raised all of our budgetary concerns with superintendent, with central, with our budget people, and not just our building, every building, but is in the same boat. So they're well aware of it. I'm not, it's not like we're not going to cease to operate. At some point, they're going to have to find money and make sure that we continue to operate. But I just share those numbers with you. A, gives us a little more breathing room under the current circumstances, and B, it also, though, just to stress that regardless of that breathing room, the budget's going to continue to be extremely tight for the entire year. I know COVID testing has caused a lot of concern amongst parents. Sorry about that. The bottom line is, right now, consent is mandatory, okay, for children who are coming back into blended learning. And the current guidance for principals is to place children in full remote whose parents do not give consent. Now, there's 2 exceptions, a medical exemption and a disability exemption. But parents can apply for those. While those applications are in pending approval or disapproval, the children remain in school. Okay, just to let you know that. But it is mandatory for the vast, really every student, with very few exceptions. And if you do not give consent, we are supposed to place children in full remote instruction pretty much immediately. Okay, if children showed up today without consent, we did not. There were a lot of phone calls made, a lot of forms sent home. I'm not going to cut everybody off to Friday when they're back in the building, but we do ask that you make sure you send those consent forms home. I'm trying to give everyone a day to get it squared away if you haven't done so yet. Just keep in mind, you're in tomorrow and the next day. So there's a quick turnaround there. So if your child comes in tomorrow without consent, you'll get a phone call. There'll be a form sent home. I do ask that you get that back to us the next day, because that does put me in a spot where I've got to make some tough decisions. And I really do not want to exclude any child from school. But ultimately, it's not my decision not to do so. So it's a tough spot, but it's my job, so I got to do what I got to do. Related to that, vaccinations, I know there's been a lot of concern about these as well. They are mandatory for all students, that is, students in the school and students who are in full remote, and they are mandatory by 12/11. Okay, and that does not mean by 12/11 there's an appointment. That means that the vaccinations are up to date. The current guidance that principals have is students are to be excluded from in-person and remote instruction if they're not vaccinated by December 11th. This is a state law, okay? And I am sorry for this. I have absolutely no control over it, nor does Ms. Collazo. So, and I know she's had some long conversations with parents, and some of them are just listening and talking to parents about how they feel about it. I understand where parents are coming from, but we don't have any control over this. It is a state law. And the mechanism for ensuring that it's followed is that ultimately principals can be fined personally if they don't exclude students who are not vaccinated. So I'm going to tell you that it's not my intention to cut people off on the 12th, but if I get a directive on the 11th with a list of children who need to be cut off, I'm going to have to do that. Okay, I'm going to let it go as far as I can, but I'm not advising any parent to gamble with it and to try to wait it out. If you know your child needs vaccinated, it doesn't have the vaccinations, there is a chance, and potentially a strong chance, that he or she could be excluded from both full remote and in-person learning on December 12th. Again, state law, I have no control over it. I've had parents ask me why. It's pure speculation. The only thing that I can figure, and I hate to speak for the state, but I speculate that it's the only way that the state can ensure that the children are vaccinated. The thinking may be that, even though they're not in school, they're still out in the community, and the state wants to ensure that children get vaccinated. But that's just speculation on my part. There is nobody in the DOE that can overturn this. The only people have asked, well, who can I go to? You might contact local electeds. I don't know for sure, but it just is what it is. If you have questions about your child's vaccination, you can email Ms. Colazzo or call the main office. The ladies are back in the office this week, so you can feel free to do that. Learning Bridges program, they did open up a site now at the 128 Annex. If you go on the DOE's website, if you go on our website, there's a link to Learning Bridges. If you fill out the application, you do have to scroll all the way to the bottom. The programs are listed by borough, and I think they're then maybe alphabetized or something, but I guess because this program just opened up, it's all the way at the bottom past all the other boroughs. So if you just, on the drop-down menu, go all the way to the bottom, you'll see the 128 Annex location is run by Greater Ridgewood Youth Council. At this point, seats are probably very limited, but you can certainly put in your application if you're interested. And if you have questions, you can contact Ms. Agrinsoni about that. I'm sorry, I want to circle back to schedules. As far as I did mention that the schedules will continue to be fluid, and several parents continue to ask my opinion. Is it worth sending their child in every day, or are they just better off in full remote? That's obviously a personal decision. Some children, and particularly I think the younger ones, it's maybe more important for them to be in person and get that socialization. But I've had several parents ask me lately, just given all the changes, what I think. And to be very transparent, if I were a middle school parent, I would probably leave my child in full remote instruction. I think the schedules right now are set up in such a way that there's fairly good stability, and I think the schedules are fairly strong. If middle school students do end up back in the building in a blended model, just given the current staffing issues and things of that nature, it could end up a situation where we are covering in-person classes with substitute teachers and children. Middle school kids are zooming into the at-home lessons just for budgetary and staffing logistics that we're up against. So, that's, again, several parents have asked me. I know up to now I've probably been hesitant to share my opinion, but being 4 months into this and seeing the way it's playing out, considering that when we do get back in January, there is a chance that we could randomly close. We could meet the criteria in school for positive cases where we have to close for perhaps a day or two, like we did in the past, perhaps 2 weeks. The city could randomly close for a while. I think for stability purposes, particularly in middle school, I would just probably just leave my child in full remote for the rest of the year. Elementary is a little different. I know the younger ones, they like to be the middle ones of school like to be there too. But the way the schedules play out, it seems to work a little better, the blended with the elementary school. So there you have to just kind of, I would not advise for elementary children. I'm sorry for that, because I could see benefits to both. But just with the way our schedules are right now, the staffing availability and the potential inconsistency, I would just say that the middle school kids are probably better off in full remote for right now. But again, certainly you want to leave your children in blended learning, you absolutely do that. I'm not just, certainly not telling anyone no. Just the only thing I am saying related to that is, please keep in mind the window for opting back into blended learning is closed now. However, you can always opt into full remote at any time. And again, if you have questions about that, you can contact your grade AP or Ms. Agrinsoni or the main office. They can also answer questions as well. A few logistical items. I think those are the big questions that, that we've been sort of fielding as far as, what's going on and scheduling and things of that nature. Just a few logistical items, just reminders that parent-teacher conferences, the official day is 12/17. Should probably be a comma there or something separating those two. From 12 to 2 and 5 to 7:30. You may find that your teachers are scheduling parent-teacher conferences in the weeks prior. maybe even starting this week, which that's really okay. There's nothing magical about that 17th date, except that we do have to designate, a day for that. But given the time that teachers have right now, they may begin reaching out to you to schedule appointments prior to or even shortly after that, which is fine. The grades at this point will be in very shortly, and the marking period's over, so the teachers can speak to your children's grades. So you might take advantage of that if they have appointments prior to the 17th or even shortly after. Excuse me. Just to kind of beat that rush on the 17th. If you're interested in scheduling something and you haven't heard from the teacher, you can always contact them just to see what kind of scheduling they're using. Just another mention of the parental support for students, and I know I got to walk a fine line here, because I do know that we're asking for help, and I know how difficult it is, and I know that it's extremely challenging, especially with younger children, to work from home or just even handle, run a household and still try to deal with your children's education. And we do appreciate your help and support in that manner. The only thing I just want to mention again is just please be conscious of the amount of support that you give to your children. It's okay to let them get things wrong. It's okay to let them make mistakes. It's okay to let them turn an assignment that is maybe not where you want it to be or not where it's supposed to be. That is how we help them grow. That's how we really get a good idea of where they're at, and we can really identify maybe how we can better support them. And I know in this current setup, getting children all the support they need it's challenging, but we want to be careful that children aren't receiving too much support, and that might lead to grades being a little bit higher than they would maybe otherwise be. And then potentially, once we do settle down and get back into to a more normal routine, which I think realistically that's probably, quite honestly, next school year, we don't want to shock people saying, well, my child really excelled last year, and then next year they might come down a little bit more to not certainly doing poorly, but just maybe not quite where they were this year. And I just would ask that you consider the amount of support you're giving them. That's all. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, great, they want us to help out with the remote learning, but they don't want us to help our children. Again, I know it's a fine line. Just be very conscious of how much help you're giving your child, and don't be afraid to let them make mistakes. That's really the best way I know to put it. That they don't have to be perfect. Their work does not have to be perfect. We want their best efforts. Okay, and we'll figure it out from there. Speaking of grading, as I sent a letter out about a month ago regarding the grading policy. Just want to reiterate, you will not see failing grades on report cards this year. Okay, students will receive either an N or an NX. So in elementary school, they'll receive an N for any failing grade, and failing grades are defined right now. The guidance that we received as principals as in a 1 to 4 scale. It's anything below a 3, because 3 is meeting standards. It probably sounds a little bit harsh, I understand that, but that is the guidance that we received. And then in any numerical grading scale, it's anything below a 65. And then obviously in a pass-fail course, it's either pass or N. The NX in middle school stands for course in progress. I don't know why, but what that implies is then the children may end up having to finish a course in summer school if they don't, if they receive that mark, depending on the grade they're in. Keeping in mind that the promotional criteria varies, in grades 3 to 7, promotion is based on ELA and math, student performance in ELA and math. In grade 8, it's based on the four of the major subjects: math, science, social, and ELA. And 8th grade students must pass all 4 of those subjects in order to graduate and be promoted. Report cards will be available on the 15th on the My Schools account. Okay, so you can find those there. And this last thing, just on weekend announcements, I'm going to ask that you be patient. What I mean by that is, obviously the mayor held a press conference the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend and announced that we'd be going back to school in December. The children in grades K to 5 would be going back to school on December 7th, and then dropped something about potential 5-day-a-week schooling. And I know that that everybody's antennas went up, and I know PTA was getting a lot of emails and texts and things like that. I heard the same press conference. I learned about it at the same time everybody else did from a news briefing on my phone. I didn't send anything out that Sunday. I apologize for that. To be honest with you, I kind of looked at it. I said, you know what, this is December 7th. I haven't fully processed this yet. So let me just see what's going on. Then we'll get the information out. If we get a news briefing like that, or a news break about school where we have a week or so before anything's going to go into effect, I'm just going to ask everyone, maybe just take a breath, take a step back. PTA is not going to have the answers right away. I probably won't have, actually, I won't have the answers right away. What tends to happen is when these press conferences are held and these announcements are made, there's usually a principals meeting within a day or two where it's sort of clarified for us, and they go over kind of how to communicate it to parents. So generally we don't have immediate answers. And so I would just ask, if the announcement says something's going to happen in a week, just relax. We'll get the information out to you, as soon as possible, and as soon as we can be as clear as we can. Now, if the mayor had said blended kids are going back, the 30th, the first Monday back, we would have got that stuff out right away. Okay. But I know it's a very tense and stressful time for everyone, and there's been a lot of back and forth, and we're closed, we're open, we're closed, we're open, we're half open. And I know that's stressful on everybody. I really do understand that. But take a breath, don't panic over it. We will get you the information as soon as we can. And if I feel like the school needs to be notified of something immediately, I will make sure to get that out to the PTA, and we'll get it out to you as best we can. Also, to be fully transparent, people may not be available on the weekends. Our normal communication protocols. I could be away on a weekend, or I could be, there's been a couple days on the weekends where I'm not always constantly checking emails, so I might miss something on a weekend. But we'll get you that information that first work day back. I promise you that. Weekend if we can, but as soon as possible. The last piece before I'm going to hit the Q&As here, but I just want to, I know it's a very strange holiday season, and normally this is a great month at school with a lot of excited kids and families and shows and different things going on. And unfortunately, we're just not there this year. But I do hope that everyone first had a great Thanksgiving. And then as we do head into the holiday season, that we do all kind of still focus on the positives and all the nice things that are going on, and really take the opportunity to enjoy the holiday season. So let me get to the Q&A here and see what I can address. I'm going to stop sharing before I get to that. Yeah, there it is. Maximize. Can you explain where the 28 sections come from? Yes, there are 9 grades in our building, and there's every day there's three and then 3 sections per grade, except for 2 grades have 4. So in other words, there's 3 kindergarten sections in the building, there's 3 first grade sections in the building, there's 3 second, third, fourth. We get up to middle school, there's 4 sections of the building. So 3 times 9 would be 27. Then you've got 2 extra, 1 extra each in 7th and 8th grade. So even with elementary school, there's 15 sections in the building every day. So we would still need 15 more teachers each day to bring them in 5 days a week. So it's just not, unfortunately, we just don't have even 15 teachers. Okay. And actually, there's no clarity yet on the emphasis right now is elementary school. We're not real sure what the city's doing with middle school yet. So if you focus just on elementary school, it does take it down to 18 sections. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have to count that on my hands. 3 times 6, 18 sections, which is still 18 more teachers a day. And we just don't have that. We don't have 18 teachers per day. If that changes, and if we get support, financial or staffing from the city, where they assign 18 teachers to us, it'll be with us locked in for the rest of the year, then certainly that would be a possibility, but we just don't have that right now. Very good question. How will you ensure social distancing with 2 cohorts in the new year? Will the number of students in each cohort increase? The number of students in each cohort or each section will increase. However, it will not exceed the social distancing capacity in any classroom. So every classroom has a number. Most of them are around 12 people. You can't have more than 12 people in a classroom. So we have to abide by that. So we will not exceed social distancing capacity in any classroom. If a number of students continue to go remote, there will be no chance to go 5 days. I won't say there's no chance to do anything given the circumstances, but it would take a tremendous shift to full remote. Really about half per grade. Half the students that are currently in blended between now and, would have to opt into full remote. So I won't say no chance, but it would have to be, what we're seeing is we've seen a couple, there's like a trickle. We've seen a few more families go full remote in the last week, but not a tremendous number. We seem to be pretty stable. So we would literally, need like half the children, half the families who are currently coming to blended to go full remote. And really would almost have to happen like all at once. I mean, I guess if a couple months from now we saw, well, we are cut in half, we could certainly revisit it. We will continue to revisit everything as the year goes on, but the chances of us getting all the elementary school students in 5 days are very slim. If we switch now to full remote for middle school, would it mean they switch teachers? No, well, only in 6th grade. That's a good question. In 7th and 8th grade, the 7th and 8th graders set up a little bit differently. And if you stayed full remote, for the most part, no, there wouldn't be much changing of teachers. They're set up to kind of, I guess, to create a bit of a cushion to ensure that, and that's mainly because the honors classes, there's kind of a different variable in 7th and 8th grade, and trying to continue to maintain the honors classes, that leads us to program them slightly differently. So, I mean, for right now, they're in full remote. I'm not, it's, there's going to be no change to teachers between now and the break, unless, there's another announcement between now and then that the blended middle school kids are coming back. But for the most part, teachers would say fairly stable in full remote in middle school for the most part. Again, the other wild card is, we could have the teachers who are working in the building could shift. Teachers availability of staff can change, but changing of teachers would be minimal. There's going to be some tweaking all year, to be very honest with you, but it'd be minimal. The maximum number of children, well, that's why I just mentioned the maximum. What would the maximum number of children be in a classroom starting after the break? It doesn't change. Every room has a limit. Most of them are about 12. So you're really looking at, I think our largest group right now might have 11 children in the classroom. So they're really, the only room right now that could hold more than that is the music room. That's being utilized for something else, but for the most part, it's about 11 to 12 students in a classroom. I don't know of any room right now that's over that. I'm sorry, I'm just paging down here. Well, what should the schedule look like when schools are shut down and full remote? Currently, some children are having every period like they would in school. Some are receiving a period a day, and others are only getting a full day. If there's a specific, this question, I mean, the middle schools right now in full remote are getting 4 to 6 periods a day. I don't know that if there's a class receiving a period a day, then you should definitely email that grade AP so we can look at that. That should not be the case. When they're in full remote, the schedule should be following generally the in-school schedule. So if there's a class receiving only 1 period a day, please email the grade AP and CC me, and we can look at that and see what the problem is there. One thing I will say is just somewhat related to that. On students who are in full remote, if the teacher's absent, that teacher, we do not get a substitute teacher for that teacher on any given day. So there are times where teacher's absent, and if teacher's out over the course of a day or two, then we don't get a sub for that. That is the guidance we're receiving from Central, and it's also really just not that easy just to put a substitute teacher on a online platform and have them pick that up. It's a little bit more complicated than that. Can middle school parents have the option to have a number grades instead of a letter? All middle school students are getting number grades in the major subjects. So you're getting, as long as it's above a 65. If it's below a 65, that's the only time it comes into a letter grade, unless it's a pass-fail course. But other than that, the students are getting numerical averages in middle school. If you have a specific question, you can email Ms. Delio or myself. We can take care of that. But for the major subjects, students are getting numerical grades unless they receive a score below a 65, and then they're receiving an NX. Yes, I can. Hang on one second. The parent asks, can I put 2 cohorts schedule back on the screen again? let me answer all three of them first. Maspeth Town Hall is still operating, yes. I can't speak for whether or not they have spots or not. You could shoot Miss Agrensoni.
Mr. Cardy, I'm going to put Miss Carol from Maspeth Town Hall. I'm going to put her email in the chat.
That's actually better. Yes, yeah. Miss Carol's email will be there. She should answer your email. I don't know. I mean, I believe, I shouldn't say that. I'm actually pretty confident that they do have spots. I'm sorry, I'm thinking too quickly. Their numbers are very low. So I'm thinking that they do have spots, but I don't want to speak for them. So you should contact them directly. Let me just go minimize this and just share my screen quick, so I can show this schedule for you. Here we go. So this would be, again, it's still tentative, but I don't foresee any changes to it. I mean, again, as we get looking at things, we may have to tweak it, but this is what you're looking at. So the week of January 4th, you'll have Group A in Monday through Wednesday, Group 3 Thursday, Friday. What rotates is Wednesday. So A will be in steady Monday, Tuesdays, B will be in steady Thursday, Fridays, and then they'll be in every other Wednesday. That's what we're looking at right now for when we get back. And again, I can't foresee anything that could change this, but I'm just, the way things are going, I can't say anything definitively. We'll have that out to parents by probably by the 20th. I think I should just show that. Let me just see again. Sorry, that's the wrong one. That Monday of the week of the holiday break, we'll have that out to parents. So there won't be any surprises there, or there shouldn't be. Get back to the Q&A, sorry. I think I answered all three questions there. Can you just clarify if there is any 5-day school? That's okay. There's 5-day schooling right now is just for the elementary school self-contained classes. So class 111, 311, 511, but that's not starting until after the holiday break. Other than that, the students in the other cohorts will just be in, they are increasing. We're going to 2 cohorts, so they'll be in 3 days, 1 week, 3 days or 2 days, depending on the week. But again, we do not have the capacity to bring everybody back 5 days a week. And then the other parent that mentioned something earlier about just focusing on elementary school. Again, even with elementary school, we would still need 18 more teachers a day. Granted, that's a little cheaper, but it's just, we've put into the sub central system, which, most of our subs we get on our own, people that we've worked with before, and we have their cell phone numbers. Ms. Snow reaches out to them. We set this up ahead of time. We have, just to see, kind of fishing for more candidates, we have put in sub vacancies. We did it for a solid 2 months. We put in for a science sub for a while, a special education teacher, and then a common branch teacher, depending on the day. We didn't get anybody. Nobody came. I think I can count on one hand the number of times that candidates came, and we weren't completely comfortable with some of the candidates we got. So again, the staffing issue is the biggest obstacle to going 5 days a week. There'll be, again, about 10 to 12 kids in each class when they're in the building. Are the parents of students that need vaccine verification notified individually? Yes, Ms. Colazzo has been reaching out and notifying parents who need vaccinations. If you're not sure, you can email Ms. Colazzo or just call the office tomorrow. Actually, like I said, again, the ladies are there now. Call tomorrow, ask for Ms. Colazzo, and she can let you know. But she has been sending out letters and been in contact with families who come up on the list that she gets from the central. But if you're not sure, it's always better to make a phone call to the office tomorrow. Thank you, no problem at all. There's 3 questions here. What kind of test are you offering, rapid versus PCR? What is the criteria for testing? Will parents be notified before testing is performed? I'm gonna be very honest. I think the first question, what kind of testing is it? The results don't come immediately. The number that we've gotten is within about 48 hours. So obviously I've been reading a lot about these tests. I don't think that's a rapid test. I think that would be PCR, but I'm not sure. I can find out, and I can look into that and get back to you on that. Just put something out either in morning announcements or just an e-blast. I believe though it's PCR. That is my understanding. The criteria for testing, we get a list. It's improved. The testing process has improved compared to what it was earlier in the school year. At this point, we will be receiving a list with 20%. We have to 20. Excuse me. 20% of the people in the building on testing days. We will get a list, and it's very clear. You just start with this. Start at the top and work your way down until you hit your 20% of the list of the people in the building. Or I think that they have a time limit as well. So it now seems to be random. We're to be very transparent with you. Prior to this, it has not been random. The testing companies would show up, and basically we kind of had to test students who had consent, and it was a difficult situation. So criteria is that it's random, and there is a letter. Parents are not notified before testing, but there is a letter that goes home with parents telling you that your child has been tested that day. But it just tells you, it gives you explanation on where to find out about the results and things of that nature. I cannot answer why kindergarten is not being randomly tested. That's just a city policy, and I don't know. My guess would be due to their age, but I can't answer that. I'm sorry. The question is, why is kindergarten not being randomly tested as well? Right now that it's 1 to 12, grades 1 to 12, for our case 1 to 5. I don't have an answer for that. I do apologize. That's just that's the guidance that we have. If you want to request a cohort for the new year, you can email that request to Miss Snell. Jess, is that good? And CC Alex, does that work for you?
Yeah, I just put my email in the chat because one of the parents was asking about that.
Okay, yeah. So email Miss Snell, who's in the chat. CC Miss Agronsoni, just to make sure that we know that they got it, because we are kind of, there's a lot of email communication. I don't want to miss anything. We will, again, we're going to continue to do everything we can to accommodate cohort requests. I really think to date we have not had to say no to anyone, but I got to be honest with everyone. It could, that doesn't not going to make you feel any better if you're the parent. We have to look at it and say, listen, I'm sorry, we just can't do it. It's our intention to accommodate every request that we can. I'm going to be right up front with you though. Requests for friends and things like that we really can't take into consideration. I do know that kids want to be with their friends, but that's really, unfortunately, never something we can really consider. This year it's a variable that we just can't throw in there, given the fact with all the changes and things of that nature. But just let Ms. Snell know, and we'll do everything we can to accommodate. At some point though, we might get to the situation where the numbers just don't allow it, and we do have to look at a family and say, listen, I'm sorry, I can't get you in cohort A or cohort B. That's not our intention, but I just want to be transparent that could happen. When the cohort shift, will my child definitely have the same teacher? I can't definitely say anything about staff. We're not making changes just for the sake of changes. It's likely that your child will have the same teacher. I don't, we're not setting out just to make changes, but just to give you an example, in the last week, I've had 2 more staff members who have received medical accommodations to work from home. That obviously upsets things, and I had to make some staffing changes. So it is our intention to leave teachers where they're at. Any staffing change that is made for a reason. To be very honest, I can't always share that reason with you. I really can't even say to you, well, the reason I had to make this move was because your child's teacher got a medical accommodation. That's, protected under HIPAA. And it's not appropriate for me to discuss that. Now teachers might share that on their own, but I can't come from me. And I would ask that you don't ask teachers either. So the short answer to that is, I can't definitely say that there's not going to be a change, but it is not my intention to make changes unless we absolutely have to. And again, that's going to be the case all year. It's the potential for changes in teaching assignments, programs, and schedules is going to be constant from now till June. And I know it's tough and I know it's stressful, and I apologize for that, but it's just the reality of our situation, and we all kind of have to, unfortunately, just sort of roll with it. But we are not making changes just to change things. I can assure you that. How often will the children be tested? That's a good question. What is the percentage per school per testing day? Our school, well, every school will be getting tested weekly. On any particular testing day, 20% of the people in the building will be tested. I have shared our schedules with the testing. Now we have a new testing, I guess, regime, for lack of a better word. So if I do notice, we have not been asked what our schedules are yet. If I notice that they are coming on the same cohort days, I will share that with them. But it is randomized, and it's my initial impression is they're doing a better job of making it random. So I do think they're going to take better samples moving forward. Having said that, there is a chance that children could be tested, more than 1 week in a row. I've had many parents ask me about the testing. I know I've said it in morning announcements. I can't stress enough how completely and totally benign it is. It is, the little ones just think it's the funniest thing around. I mean, they really are just laughing and giggling through all. We have not had any tears, anyone upset. I've had some parents reach out and say, listen, my child's a little bit nervous. Is there any way you can make sure that you or Ms. Snell or there's a staff member in there with them? We're more than happy to do that. But it really is. I had a parent email me the other day, just say, how appropriate do you think this is, or how traumatic do you think it would be for an 8-year-old? And my honest to goodness answer is, I don't think it's traumatic for a 4 or 5-year-old. I know we're not testing kindergarten, but it is that easy. That's that. Is cohort A stay A and B and B? Jess, correct me if I'm wrong. Are we pretty much dividing cohort C? Jess,
Yes,
Ms. Snell's
yeah.
handling this. That's why I defer to her.
Yes, because C has the least amount of students, so it's the easiest one to disperse between the A and the B.
So yes, for the most part, if you're an A or B, unless you've asked us, you're going to stay put. And then, like I said, and I should thank Ms. Snell. She's really handling all these cohorts and dividing them up and all these schedules that I'm putting up here. She's really responsible for all that. So thank you, Jess.
You're welcome.
Can you please keep gym for remote students? I know we've talked about this. I've gotten several questions from parents. It's not a matter of not wanting to keep gym for remote students. I'm working on it. I think right now we have it in place that we're going to be able to, at least maybe not every day, which, they wouldn't get gym every day if they were in the building anyway. I think right now we're going to be able to, but I just got to be clear. The emphasis, is, and like I've said this since the beginning of the year, there will be some subjects that unfortunately we may not be able to offer at home. Right now, it looks like PE is going to be available for at least the elementary school students who are at home. I just don't have the staff. There's just no two ways about it. Our building is still divided really into thirds, with the students who are in full remote, the students who are, every day it's divided into thirds. The students who are in full remote, the students who are in blended learning at home, and the students who are in blended learning in person. And we are technically, well, we're not, as a guiding principle, we're not allowed to cross that, where we have teachers assigned to teaching full remote students and blended students and in-person students. Our staff has been extremely flexible, and they have not said no to any request I've made of them. But what happens is, if I get, I guess, too liberal with it and trying to really stretch people too thin, it's not at the building level that takes notice. It's the union above the building level that gets involved. And so we are walking a fine line there as far as staff assignments go. But so we'll do everything we can. I guess I tend to go off. Sorry, the short answer is I'm gonna do everything I can to keep gym, at least for the elementary remote students. Like everything else, that could change, but the intention is not to change it. Cohorts, the cohort changes, you'll get those. We're looking at the week, I think it's the 20th. 21st. I'm sorry, that Monday is the 21st. So our goal is to have that, definitely before the break, but our goal is to have it to the 21st. That gives you a couple days to, if you have any questions or things like that, we can get those answered before break. Cohort B has the least in school days. Would that be compensated on the new schedule? We equalized, well, I'll be honest with you, we did set out and we equalized November, December, and then the building shut down. We did make an effort through November, December to equalize cohort days so that there was more in-person days. It's really not feasible to constantly be shifting cohorts because number one, parents need consistency in their schedules, and like we had the best laid plans for November, December, where we had a pretty even distribution of school days across where we really balanced it out from about September to December, and then we ended up closing. So it's not realistic to think that we're going to be able to go back and reschedule every time there's a closure to redistribute school days. Where it's possible, we would do so, but we also got to stay as consistent as possible for parents. We weren't anticipating those 2 days around Veterans Day being closed, and then obviously being closed for the week and a half or so shortly thereafter. I mentioned that cohort should stay the same unless you let us know otherwise. My kids are in cohort C. That'll be the week of the 21st. That next question, when you'll be notified. Yes, if you have a cohort request, just email Ms. Snell, CC Ms. Agronsoni. We're going to do everything we can to accommodate those. We have not for this next question, excuse me. If a kid is distressed during the COVID test, how is it handled? We've had, actually, I shouldn't say that. I mentioned there was no tears. There haven't been any tears, but there were a couple students who were legitimately uncomfortable with testing. We're not going to hold a child down and force them to get tested. That's just not, there's just no way. I will say if a child's name comes up and they're unable to be tested, the guidance that we have is to, escalate that, where, if it happens repeatedly, that child could potentially end up in full remote, if that's the guidance that we get. But the shortest answer there is we are not, forcing any child who's upset to get tested. And we've only come across that, I think really it's once there's been a child that was upset. One young lady just very calmly said, my mom said that I was not supposed to get tested, and she told me to tell you. And I said, okay, sweetheart, go back to class. It's being handled a little differently now. I don't quite have that latitude. But again, no child's going to be forcibly tested. So you would be collapsing cohort C. Yes. The short answer there is, yeah, cohort C is going to be redistributed among A and B. And unless you've told us otherwise, A and B will stay where they're at. That's a good question. Can you inform us of the testing days the day before? Unfortunately, I cannot do that. Very clearly directed, do not share this information with anyone. So I apologize, but the answer to that is no. I cannot inform the school community of when the testing days are. I actually made that mistake, I think, the first 2 testing days, and then read a little more closely. I think I pretty much answered this. If a child's upset about testing, the question about parents being there for testing, the answer to that is no. And I'm sorry for that. I have no workaround there. But if a child is upset, we're not going to force them. But again, if a child is, is not able to be tested in school, the conversation may shift to, we have to look at full remote. And that would be something I have to get guidance from above, but that is a potential there. But I know a few parents have asked about being present during testing. We are not allowed to do that at this time. Under the new 2 cohort system, cohort C, yes, I answered that. When the blended remote teacher my child has right now be the same. Yeah, there should not be any change to the blended remote teachers. There will be no change based on shifting to 2 cohorts. Again, staffing changes are a possibility. They're a possibility any year. We don't do it often, but they are a possibility any year. This year, the staffing changes are just a constant possibility, but we are avoiding that to the extent that we can. Do you have any contact info for Learning Bridges? I will, Alex, do we have a direct contact for parents for Learning Bridges yet?
I don't, but if the parents have any question, they can email me. And also there is still the link to the Learning Bridges program up on our website in the news section.
Yeah, if there's, do me a favor, if you have a specific question where you want to speak to, say, the Greater Ridgewood people, email Miss Agronsoni, and then she can we'll find out who the person is that parents can speak to. I have contacts there. I just don't know which ones are the appropriate ones to share with parents. So we'll ask that, but just shoot Ms. Agrensoni an email. That way we know. I answered that about cohorts A and B, C is being redistributed. Will you be able to do the theater and blended learning, or will it still be remote? Right now, it's still going to be remote. We do not have it'll still be remote right now for theater. Splitting cohort C, does that mean that 004 will have another teacher in charge? No. No, the in-school teaching assignments, 98% of them and 99% of them will not change as a result of going to 2 cohorts. So I know there was a change recently in kindergarten that could not be avoided, but just, for example, if your child's kindergarten teacher is Miss Shannon right now, going to 2 cohorts will not change that from Miss Shannon or Miss Lackman or now Miss Galvin's going to do a 004. There's no reason that the cohort number should change that. The number of cohorts should change that, excuse me. I don't know how to request the medical exemption for testing. I will find out.
Oh, Mr. Carter, I can post a link to the medical exemption form in the chat.
Okay. Okay, so the link will be up there. Thank you, Alex.
I think parents can just fill it out and then email it back to us.
Yeah, fill it out, and you can email it. You email it to, just fill it out and email it to Miss Agrensoni, and then we'll direct it from there. Does that go with you, Alex?
Sorry, yeah, that's perfect.
All right, thanks. No, there is. I understand that the question again is if a student asks for their parent to be present, is that possible? The answer is no. I'm sorry, I don't have any control over that. Again, there's no way around that, unfortunately, right now. That might have been the last question. Just make sure.
The last one there is, can remote students still, yeah, say it?
Yes, no, the window for opting into blended learning is closed for the year, actually. That was a one-shot. They changed that from Central, that was changed to a one-time opt-in period. And so at this time, there is no more opportunity to opt back into remote learning, to blended learning, excuse me, to blended. But you can go the other way anytime. You can go blended to full remote anytime throughout the year. You just, that window's closed. I think that's the last one. I'm not going to just scan down here, sorry. Am I missing anything, Jess, Alex, you see anything?
There might be some in the chat.
Let me see.
I was just beginning to type. They were asking about outdoor recess. So if you want to answer that, so I don't have to type.
To the extent we can, we're going to, we will get children outside for recess. They've been getting out as often as possible. We have one schoolyard. We're still not allowed to use Juniper Park, so that creates an issue where we just don't have the same outdoor space. But the teachers have been getting the kids outside as often as they can, and we'll continue to do so. I don't see anything else. Looks like they're kind of, I don't see anything.
Yeah, I think we answered them, or you in the chat, or you answered them in the.
Looks like it. If your question did not get answered, you can always feel free to email me directly, and I'll be happy to get back to you about it. And if anything else comes up, after tonight or anytime, you can feel free to, either email Alex, Ms. Agrensoni, your child's grade AP. You can email me directly. Call the main office. We'll do whatever we can to get your questions answered, and to help you out. I think that's all that I have. Jess, Alex, did I leave anything?
One last thing, they were just asking update on high school admissions.
There is currently no update on high school admissions. We don't have anything right now. As soon as we get that information, we will share it with you. But right now, there's nothing. I wouldn't even predict whether or not, I know we're coming up against the holiday. The only thing I would say about that is, again, every 8th grader in the city is in the same boat. So, try not to stress it too much. Your 8th grade child, my 8th grade child is, we're all in the same situation. So we really can't control it. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about it. So just, like I said, as soon as we know, we will get that information out to you. And truthfully, you may very well read about it in the paper before we even have a chance to get it out to you. But we will, as soon as we have it, we'll get it to you.
Mr. Carty, they're also asking about, the schedule for January. Maybe we could just post it as a tentative so that everyone could see it that way.
Yeah, we'll get it up. Alex, we'll get that up either not first thing tomorrow. We'll get that up.
Miss Mel, if you want to send it to me and I'll post it tonight.
Sounds good.
I don't, let's see, I think that's it. I don't see any unanswered questions. Oh wait, there's a couple of those that came in. I'm sorry, I can't, my glasses aren't. I want to acknowledge how oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for that. It was very nice of you to say. All I saw was information and communication, and I saw disaster, and I panicked a minute. So thank you. That's very nice of you to say. We are trying our best to keep you informed. We will continue to do that, as very best we can. We'll get that schedule shared first thing tomorrow, and that way it's there. And we will list it as tentative, but again, I do think it's really pretty solid. I don't necessarily see anything that could change it, but I also didn't see us going back with elementary and no middle school, so I shouldn't be the one making predictions. I think that's it. I'm just looking down one more time. I saw a couple questions come in. Make sure I didn't miss them. Right now, the plan, yes, cohort A and B would be that. I don't see anything changing that. There should be only 2 cohorts for the rest of the year. Do the city travel early test out of quarantine will apply to being able to return to school? We don't have clarity on that yet. As soon as we do, we will make sure we get that for you. That's a question. I know there's been talk about the early test out of quarantine, whether or not that applies to the students or staff quarantines. I'm not completely clear on that yet. But if you have individual questions, let us know, and we can, you can contact. That would be to contact the main office. If you're traveling and you want to know, whether or not there's a way to test out of early quarantine, contact the office, and we will find out for you. And if we get information on the policy itself, we'll let you know as well. I think that was everything. So, all right, I'm just going to say thank you, everyone. Again, if we did not get to your question, I apologize if I missed it. Feel free to email me directly. And that's it. I just want to wish everyone, I'll check in each morning announcements, but, hope everyone has a great holiday season. Happy Hanukkah. I know it's starting this week if you're celebrating. And thank you again for your patience, your support, and thank your children. They're doing a great job. I really am very impressed and proud of all of them. So please let them know that. Okay. Thanks very much, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Good. Have a great evening, everybody.
I will send an email to the director so they can reach out to you ASAP.